So, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming. I know there's lots of fabulous stuff going on, so appreciate you being here. I am none other than Professor Albus Dumbledore, naturally. And I think we should talk about all the stuff that went down during Harry's first year at Hogwarts. So, you know, the whole thing with Quirrell and the Sorcerer's Stone and all that. Now, at the end of their little adventure, after Harry has faced off against Voldemort, Harry, Ron, and Hermione have this rather illuminating exchange. So, do you think Dumbledore meant you to do it, said Ron, sending you your father's cloak and everything? Well, Hermione exploded, if he did, I mean to say, that's terrible. You could have been killed. No, it isn't, said Harry thoughtfully. He's a funny man, Dumbledore. I think he sort of wanted to give me a chance. I think he knows more or less everything that goes on here, you know. I reckon he had a pretty good idea we were going to try, and instead of stopping us, he just taught us enough to help. I don't think it was an accident that he let me find out how the mirror worked. It's almost like he thought I had the right to face Voldemort if I could. So, there you have it. And my answer to Ron's question is that, yes, I did mean for them to do it. So, I think it would be fun to go through that whole year, everything that happened, and show you just where I had to, you know, do a bit of tweaking and a bit of planning to make the things happen. So, first I want to go through the actual things protecting the Sorcerer's Stone. So, for those who don't remember, it is Fluffy, big three-headed dog, you know, bites people, the Devil's Snare, the Flying Keys, the Giant Chess Set, the Troll from Quirrell, the Logic Puzzle, and the actual Mirror of Erised, which is the effective protection, as in only one who wanted to find the stone, finds it but not use it, would be able to get it. So, a common question that has come up, you know, over the many years since these books were released, is why is the Sorcerer's Stone protected by obstacles that 3 first years get through? And that is because they are designed for 3 very specific first years to get through them. So, we go back through the obstacles. Fluffy is actually an effective one, as in, he can only be stopped by playing him a bit of music, which puts him right to sleep, something that only Hagrid and myself knew until, you know, later on in the game. So, number 2, Devil's Snare. It likes the dark and damp, so it's stopped by fire. Not only does Professor Sprout mention this in her first year class, conjuring small portable fires is a specialty of Hermione Granger's. Number 3, Flying Keys. Harry had a knack for spotting things other people didn't as the youngest seeker in a century. The Giant Chess Set. Chess is Ron Weasley's specialty. The Troll, been there, done that, Halloween. Then the Logic Puzzle. I believe the books say Hermione was actually smiling when she saw a logic puzzle for her to solve.
Yeah.
And then there's the mirror. So, other than Fluffy and the mirror, so protections numbers 2 through 6 are meant for the trio to get through. They play to their strengths: seeking, chess, fire, logic. They're designed to be passed more than once. So the potions refill themselves, the chessmen reset themselves. And they are also designed for a group to get through because there are several rooms, whereas, you know, if it was only for one person, there'd be only one. So the goal here was to get Harry and Quirrell to the mirror. So another thing that's recently been making the rounds on the internet is that Harry, far from being, you know, the hero and saving the stone in the first year, actually endangered it. Quirrell could have never gotten the stone out of the mirror. He could have stared at it until he turned blue, and it would have stayed there. Harry is the one who gets the stone out of the mirror, and thereby endangers it. So, I suppose the next question you're all wondering is, if I planned for Harry and Quirrell to get there, why would I endanger the actual stone in the process? And that is because, frankly, I did not think Harry would be able to get it out of the mirror. I tell him many years later, Harry, have you any idea how few wizards could have seen what you saw in that mirror? a kid who's 11 years old, has never known his family, for his deepest desire in the world to be to save the world from evil, like, no one expects that. Also, I had evidence to the contrary, because 5 months earlier, I saw him looking into the mirror and seeing his family. So I thought that he and Quirrell would, have at it in that room, and that the stone would never factor in. Now, why would I want Harry and Quirrell to face off? Because of the prophecy. I know that at some point, Voldemort will rise again. I know that Harry will have to be the one to face him. So, frankly, doing a trial run in controlled circumstances sounds like a good idea. Yeah?
Nothing could go wrong.
But actually, though, because Quirrell, who is full of hatred, greed, and ambition, sharing his soul with Voldemort, could not touch Harry because of Lily's sacrifice. So, if Harry is going to go up against someone who can't touch him, that seems like, as safe an environment as any for Harry and Quirrell to have their first face-off. And this will give Harry not only valuable experience facing off against Voldemort and seeing how the Dark Lord's mind works, it will also give him, a confidence boost, which is always nice. So, that was the plan. And not only did I want Harry to go up against Quirrell, I also wanted Ron and Hermione to go on this little adventure with him, because I knew very early on just how valuable their friendship would be. I tell Harry, in our chat in his 5th year, that I have watched you more closely than you can have imagined. So, that means I've also watched Ron and Hermione enough to know that they would be very valuable allies. And this is demonstrated in the extraordinary level of trust I place in Ron and Hermione. Now, frankly, I'm not a very trusting person. It's a fault. However, I do tell Harry before his 6th year that he should inform Ron and Hermione about the prophecy. I also allow Harry in his 6th year to share the contents of our lessons in the Pensieve with the Memories of Riddle with Ron and Hermione. That makes Ron and Hermione the only people, aside from myself and Harry Potter, to know these things, which shows that I did know how important they were going to be. Which is also demonstrated in the fact that I left Ron the Deluminator and Hermione Tales of Beedle the Bard in my will, despite making exceptionally few personal bequests. But, going back to the 1st year, I see them becoming friends, so I decided that what better way to cement their friendship than by putting them all through this. Right? Friendships are solidified under duress, and, years and years later, when Harry is doing his whole noble, no, it's my journey alone, Hermione tells him, we're going with you. That was decided months ago, years really, when we went into the trapdoor with you. So, this will give Harry, Ron, and Hermione valuable experience working together, getting through obstacles, which does in fact come in handy, so many years later. So, now, while I do want Ron and Hermione to go on this little adventure with Harry, I don't want them facing off against Quirrell, because they, unlike Harry, have no such magical protection. Which is why all the tasks are designed for the whole trio to get through, until the second to last one, the potions. Now notice, there was only enough of the forward potion for one person to go forward, Harry. Whereas there is a back potion in unlimited quantity, from what the books say. And also, why else would there be a back potion? Who is going to go through all the obstacles protecting the stone, get there last minute and be like, you know what, nah, we'll try again tomorrow. So, yeah, I designed all these obstacles very, very carefully. This is also why I involved Quirrell in protecting the stone, because I needed him to be able to get to the mirror and through all the other obstacles Because if he hadn't and he ran into Ron and Hermione, he wouldn't think twice about killing them. And, I mean, while I'm a bit lax on security, I don't want students killed for no reason. Like, we draw that line there. So that's why I allowed Quirrell to add the troll so he would see what the other obstacles are and not be stymied by them. You know, what if he was a bad flyer, or what if Quirrell was really horrible at chess? You know, like, and then you kind of have the mental image of him practicing chess moves with Voldemort and then playing the other side. Yeah. But now we're in Harry Potter musical territory, so yeah. So, I supervised these things very carefully. I even told Professor Sprout to mention Devil's Snare in her class, because frankly, Devil's Snare is not the kind of thing first years learn in herbology. Most of the other plants are like, you know, pretty and innocuous. So yeah, that was the plan. Get the trio through the obstacles, get Harry to face off against Quirrell. It's the plan. So, now, we can... Really? Okay. Now we can go through pretty much the entire first year, and I will give you a play-by-play. Sorry, I was yelling a lot earlier.
That's right. That happens.
So, you all know that I have sources about Voldemort, very well-placed sources. In Chamber of Secrets, I tell Harry, you know, that my sources say Voldemort is hiding in Albania. So I know when Voldemort is suddenly no longer in Albania in 1991. I know Quirrell was recently in Albania, and I know that Quirrell came back with a turban and acting weird. So, blessed as I am with more intelligence than the average wizard, I put two and two together and, you know, developed a little theory that, you know, Voldemort was back and logically would go after the Sorcerer's Stone, which is when I hatched this little plot, you know, to have Harry go up against Voldemort. And I wanted it all to take place at Hogwarts, thank you very much, where I can keep an eye on it. So, I decided to move the stone to Hogwarts. And I also decided to give Harry his first clue by having Hagrid take him to the vault where he got the stone the day he took Harry to Gringotts. Because, I mean, why else would he do that? Like, hi, curious 11-year-old. Here's me taking the secret thing. Pay it no mind. I mean, you know, it's kind of my style. Now, the fact that Quirrell actually tried to steal it, like, later that day, that's coincidence. But, you know, all's well that ends well. So, keep in mind, I bring the stone to Hogwarts, but none of the obstacles are in place yet or anything. So that is when I need to test my theory and set Quirrell on the trail. So, at the start of term feast, I, you know, make a great big show of telling everyone the third floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die a very painful death. Which is the equivalent of me stage whispering to Quirrell, "It's in the third floor corridor." And even Percy Weasley notes that this is out of character. Percy comments to Harry at that start of term feast that I usually give reasons for why people are not allowed to go somewhere. So, sure enough, Quirrell takes the bait, and the very next morning, in fact, Harry and Ron were rescued on the third floor corridor by Professor Quirrell, who was passing. Hook, line, and sinker. And that is when we get that scene that was flashed back to in The Prince's Tale, where I tell Snape, keep an eye on Quirrell, won't you? So then I leave Harry the second clue, which is the news clipping about the package being removed from Gringotts. Now, no one ever stops to wonder why there was a 5-week-old newspaper clipping in Hagrid's hut, especially when Hagrid can probably barely read. So, that was placed there by me as well. So now, let us talk about Fluffy. Because one Ron Weasley has a very good point when he says, what do they think they're doing keeping a thing like that locked up in a school? Hidden from the student body by no more than an Alohomora charm that a first year can do. And indeed, at this point, I have placed the stone into the mirror, one of my more genius inventions, if I do say so myself. So Fluffy isn't really needed because, again, Quirrell can look at the damn thing till he turns blue, and no stone. Now, Fluffy was there to ensure that Quirrell was kept busy while Harry became a wizard, grew acclimated to Hogwarts. While Harry does have the magical protection of his mother's sacrifice against being touched by Quirrell, the fact is you want the kid to have more than 2 weeks' worth of magic lessons before this happens. You know, at this point all he can do is turn a matchstick into a needle, and not very well at that. So Fluffy is essentially a stalling tactic, placed there to keep Quirrell busy. And here's the fun part, that while the other protections are not in place behind Fluffy, nor is the actual stone. I was not going to take any chances that Quirrell actually would get past Fluffy. So while I made this whole production of telling Quirrell that, yeah, it's on the third floor corridor behind the murderous three-headed dog, I did not actually keep the stone behind the dog. I kept the stone in the mirror, wherever I damn well pleased. It was in my office for a few weeks, it was in random classrooms, and, you know, had a little chuckle to myself because I am so much smarter than Quirrell. And this is actually a style of scheming that I used in the future in Harry's 5th year with the prophecy. Those of you who were at my presentation at the last MISTI-Con know that the whole prophecy thing was a decoy to keep Voldemort busy while I went about my business undermining him. So, same model here. And again, I very much like controlling when things happen, also as evidenced in that prior presentation. So yeah, keeping things under control. And now I need to let Harry know about the mirror. Because imagine if the first time the poor boy sees the mirror is when he's going up against Quirrell. Like, you know, Voldemort says, the mirror shows the truth if you only believe in me. And yeah, that's that then. So I decided to let Harry know about the mirror at Christmas. Now, at Christmas time, the other protections are still not in place. The evidence of this is that they are tailored to the trio, which was not even a trio until Halloween, with the whole troll incident. So, once I figured out that Hermione was one of their friends and would be going on this quest, that is when I started thinking about how to, you know, create obstacles specifically for her, Ron, and Harry. Sorry, tangent. So, on Christmas, I send Harry his father's cloak, and then wait for him to sneak out and follow him. I obviously followed him that first night because the odds of him just happening onto the one empty classroom with the Mirror of Erised in it are astronomical. Not even Ludo Bagman would have bet on that. So I wait as he runs about in his invisibility cloak, and then when I see him going into an empty classroom, I magic the mirror there, and then I sit there and watch him see his family, and might have cried a little, so there were feelings had. So I'm hoping Harry will figure it out, but Harry's not Hermione, so he does not figure it out immediately. So he comes back the next night with his friend Ron Weasley. They both look into the mirror, they see what they see, and still nothing. So then on the third night, I finally decide that it is time to come clean and tell Harry what's what. So I finally let him know what the mirror does and how it is used, with the line that, now if you are to come across it again, you will be prepared. Hint, hint, wink, wink. And it is only after this conversation that I move the mirror to the room behind Fluffy, because I tell Harry during that conversation that the mirror will be moved to a new home tomorrow, with the emphasis on new home. Oh my gosh, it's a full house. There are seats there, anyone wants to sit. Anyway. So, now I set up the other protections. Also, this beard is really not happening. Oh, fuck it all. I'm just channeling Dumbledore because he's dead. Too soon? Guys, I think it's not too soon because Half-Blood Prince came out 10 years ago this July. And in other news, we're old.
And technically, didn't Half-Blood Prince take place in 97?
96 to 97, yes. So yeah, like, guys, I died like 18 years ago. You know, ancient history. Like, my presenter was only 5 years old back then. So, anyway. Where were we? Dumbledore dying. Before that. Yeah, okay. So, we moved the mirror to the place, we set up the other protections, and then I just sit back, relax, and, you know, wait for something to happen. And for a few months, nothing does. Harry and his friends go sleuthing after information for Flamel. I was actually not aware of this, because I commented that I was pleasantly surprised when Harry informed me. I was like, oh, you did do the thing properly. Well done. Again, the first instance of many when I underestimated Harry. So, the next big step in this whole plan is when Quirrell gets Hagrid drunk and finds out how to get past Fluffy. And obviously he tips me off by the change in his behavior, because Quirrell is many things, but he is not subtle. So then I need to get things moving along and inform Harry that, you know, there's a Sorcerer's Stone, Voldemort's after it, all this good stuff. And just such an opportunity presents itself to me when Harry lands himself in detention. I assume you're all familiar with the detention I'm talking about, when Harry, Hermione, Neville, and Draco go into the Forbidden Forest with Hagrid. Now, sending 4 first years into the Forbidden Forest in the middle of the night to find dead unicorns, when they are realistically no help in finding dead unicorns, when there is something powerful and dark around killing unicorns. Whose great idea is this for a detention? It is not quite Professor McGonagall's style. Her style is more writing lines, cleaning things. So yeah, this was me. So I realized that it was Quirrell killing off the unicorns, and I decided that when Harry and his friends landed in detention, I would send them into the forest and enlist the help of a resident of said forest to let them know what's what. Now, Harry never thinks to wonder why Firenze the Centaur knows about the Sorcerer's Stone, when this is supposed to be a rather closely guarded secret. Unless the meaning of Mars is bright tonight is there's a Sorcerer's Stone hidden at Hogwarts, he couldn't possibly know about this unless I informed him. So I enlist Firenze as my aide, knowing him to be a trustworthy centaur, tell him to look out for Harry and let him know what's what. Now, I did not actually plan for Quirrell to be there drinking unicorn's blood the night this all went down. That, again, would be a bit reckless of me. However, Quirrell did not keep on a regular drinking schedule, so it was rather hard to predict when he'd be in the forest, and I took a shot. You know, this would have been easier if he had just been like, ooh, I drink unicorn blood on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But no such luck. Can't be that easy. So, Firenze tells Harry and company, Sorcerer's Stone, Voldemort, all that good stuff. And that is why I returned to the cloak to Harry that night, and pretty much the plan was set in motion. Now, because I do care about Harry's education, this all had to wait until he was done with exams. Again, Harry never questions why Voldemort so conveniently chooses to act on the last day of exams. You know, in his first year, in his 5th year, on most occasions. That is because I am, you know, pulling the strings as usual. So I wait until the exams are over, and then I finally decide to respond to that urgent owl to London. Ely Quarrel. So I want to give Harry, Ron, and Hermione time to face off, like, do the thing, do the obstacles, face off against Quirrell, but I do kind of want to swoop in at the end and make sure it's all okay. So the way this was designed was that when Hermione and Ron would be turned away by the potions riddle, they would come right back, I would see them, I would go in. That gives Harry a nice window of time. Now, what I had not counted on was Mr. Ron Weasley getting injured in the chess match. And that kind of delayed the whole thing and screwed up my timetable. Because Hermione says she had to go back from the potions riddle, spend time reviving Ron, and only then they merged. Which is also why I'm frantic, because I'm waiting there being like, where did they get stuck? Did they die by Devil Snare? Like, how did this all go down? But they do, Ron and Hermione do finally merge, and I swoop in, past the obstacles, go to the room with the mirror, and then I am in for quite a shock, because I see this poor boy clutching the stone, and I'm like, how? How on earth did this 11-year-old, who wants to see his parents in the mirror, wind up with the stone? But it all turned out to be okay. Because, Harry managed to hold off Quirrell, and I finished that job. Harry got his valuable experience fighting against Harry and Voldemort, and I found out that Harry is a pretty damn awesome 11-year-old, and, has a saving the world thing. So, yeah, that kind of all worked out okay. So, that is how Harry's first year really went down. Any questions? Yes.
When you were talking about Fluffy, and you brought up a thing people might wonder, why was there a ferocious giant beheaded dog that any first year could easily get to, and you said that he was there as a distraction to Quirrell. But how did you think, what did you think would stop other first years besides the trio from running into Fluffy?
I trusted to the fact that most first years are not as curious as Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and that if you tell them they will die if they go somewhere, they won't go there. Also, to be fair, even if some first years did discover it, they see a giant three-headed dog and run away, and we leave it at that. They don't go researching what's the what and who's the who.
What about the 7th years?
Again, I doubt any of Hogwarts students, as magically talented or ambitious as they may be, would want to face off against Fluffy. I mean, fully grown wizards couldn't, without the music trick. So, again, that was a risk, but I take risks on occasion to, advance the war against Voldemort, and I thought that was an acceptable risk to take. Yes?
You said to 1,000 teenagers not to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Didn't you realize that basically saying, come here, try?
I mean, again, I thought that the sight of Fluffy would chase them away.
What if one of them leaves the door open?
Oh, that would have been a problem, wouldn't it?
Phyllis would have closed it.
Yeah, it would have all worked itself out. These things usually do. Also, I mean, aside from that, I did cast a spell on the room to make sure Fluffy couldn't get out. So, there was that safety measure. Because that shouldn't be a difficult spell. Anyone else? Yes?
You didn't think the snow would actually come into play. You didn't think Harry would actually figure out.
Yeah.
He would do that with the mirror. Then why even introduce him to the mirror in the first place?
So he would know what he's looking at when he looks into the mirror.
But you wouldn't have to know what he's looking at if he wasn't looking at anything. Why even show him?
That's amazing.
Because when he would go after the stone, the final obstacle was the mirror, so he would see Quirrell looking into it and probably end up looking into it himself. And he sees his heart's desire. Voldemort, who is very persuasive, even at the worst of times, would no doubt convince Harry, somehow, that, this can all be yours if you would only join me. He actually does do, a bit of this to an extent where he says, you know, I can give you your parents back, I can give you everything you want, if you would only join me. There is only power in those 2 weeks to seek it. So I thought that conversation would happen, but go much worse if Harry did not know what he was up against. That's why I stressed to Harry that the mirror shows us, that the mirror gives us neither knowledge nor truth. That was a very important point for him to understand.
Then wouldn't they either faced off or not, even if the stone never was there?
Yes, that's the thing. I wanted them to face off, but did not want the stone endangered. Following?
So why did you put the stone in there at all? Why not leave the stone in the office?
Because I frankly thought it was a foolproof protection. I never in my wildest dreams imagined that Harry would get the stone out of the mirror, because, I mean, how many people are honestly that selfless? I thought that putting the stone in the mirror so no one selfish would be able to get it was the perfect plan. That is where my plan went wrong.
And it was basically safer than Gringo.
Yeah. I mean, that way, you know, it's enchanted so no one can get to it, and I know where it is. I thought that was, you know, the best way to keep the stone safe. Anyone else? Sure.
Did you arrange for Harry to be a Gryffindor?
No. I mean, I rather hoped he wouldn't be a Slytherin, but I really couldn't care what house he was in.
Did you not send the Weasley after her? Because what I found suspicious was that Molly saying, what was the platform number again? And I thought that was suspicious because she went to Hogwarts for 7 years. That was Percy's 5th year. And before that, Bill went to Hogwarts for 7 years. And she couldn't remember what the platform number was?
Okay, explanation A for that is that Arthur just took the kids for the last however many years.
And especially after the twins. There was no way.
Yeah. Explanation B is that it was the first book in a fantasy franchise, and
What was the question?
sorry, okay. The question is why Molly Weasley asks what the platform number is when they're departing platform 9 3/4. Because she should know that.
Can't you say it so Harry can hear? You're saying it and then he realizes.
I'm saying she's saying that so the reader will hear. I think we must make a few allowances for exposition to happen in the first book.
So that wasn't your plan?
No. Him meeting up with the Weasleys was, again, happy coincidence. I would hope that he would make friends wherever he went, and it just worked out well that he befriended Ron and Hermione. I just wanted him to have good friends. I was not necessarily choosy about who they would be. Yes?
No, I'm just saying yes, you are.
Anything else? Yes. Oh, that's easy. We put him in the forest. I mean, listen, the forest has the acromantulas, the magical werewolf cubs, the centaurs, the Groff, like, seriously, yeah, unicorns. Like, three-headed dog is the least interesting thing in that forest.
The enchanted car.
The enchanted car. Well, my personal headcanon for what happened with the enchanted car, because I really wanted to see it in the last book, is that it had a love affair with Sirius's motorcycle, and they had tried to babies. Yeah. I'm convinced of that, and one day I want to ask Jo Rowling about it. One of my first questions for her. Anything else? Yes.
I know that the presentation is mostly about Philosopher's Stone, but you mentioned that that was not the only time that you manipulated things to do with Voldemort, specifically to make sure that Harry faces off against him after exams.
Yeah.
Can you give some examples from the later books?
Sure. Harry's 5th year, when that vision from Voldemort, coincidentally comes on the last day of exams. So.
And how did you do? What was your hand in that?
Well, my hand in that was not so much the timing of that. I was just saying that that is a thing that happens. What I was doing in Harry's 5th year was essentially sending Voldemort on a wild goose chase with the prophecy. Because, who actually cares if he hears it? What can it tell him? I just sent him after the prophecy so I could hunt down the Horcruxes and, him being none the wiser. So, no, I was saying timing-wise more what happened in Harry's 7th year. Because, that's when things get complicated. It was an hour-long presentation at the last MISTI-Con. But I can send you essays and stuff. Lots of this stuff is online on MuggleNet. So pretty much with that one, I had several things that I necessitated happen in a certain order to get Harry to the place he got to in the final battle. Yeah. Sorry, I just don't think we have time to get into that. We have 10 minutes if we want to, chat about anything. Yes?
So, be straight with me.
I'll try.
Grindelwald. Love? Left?
Oh.
All right, that's fair. Powerful infatuation.
Finally, I always
it was kind of a friend crush that then blossomed into a rather real crush. But it did rather make me afraid of the power of love and what I could do. It's susceptible to that, which is why I spent the next 135 years alone. Anything more cheerful? Yes.
So, in the Philosopher's Stone, Dumbledore is not yet aware at this point that Harry is a Horcrux, right? He's not aware that Harry is the 7th Horcrux.
Ooh, okay. I actually thought about maybe doing a separate presentation on this, but we can start now.
Just because I'm curious why he would choose. I mean, I understand that Harry's the chosen one, but what would make him so special that he would focus his whole plan on 3 students in the stone? You know what I mean?
Sure. Okay. So what makes him special is the prophecy. Now, I say the prophecy is useless because by Harry's 5th year, they faced off